My name is Emily Soden and I'm an artist. My first experience with art was with watercolors, so I've been doing that for like 20 years. So I think it's something I always fall back on the most is using watercolors. But I do almost every medium I do and love, but watercolor is the primary one. It was like midway through high school that I really found out this was a passion and a love. This palette I've had actually, it was like my first watercolor palette. So this has been with me 20 years. I feel like there's this purity with watercolor that you can't actually add white in watercolor. You have to leave the white of the paper. Like you can only add so much paint before it's like overworked and it's too much. So there's this looseness almost sometimes of just like, you can't worry too much and you just put down like that layer and you're saying, okay, that layer has to work. And so you can get these moments that just perfectly capture like a color in nature. And I guess when they mentioned that I needed to create the awards, there was this kind of open-ended subject matter, like it could be whatever I wanted it to be, but I needed to bring in Canada's 150th. I was thinking about maybe like Canadian birds or something, and then I was like, what about just Canadian trees? Like, especially with this like huge countryside, it just makes, like, to me that's something that symbolizes Canada, and we see these iconic trees everywhere, like the birch tree or the sugar maple or red oak trees. I'd actually never heard about the Spirit Awards before I was contacted about it, and when I found out that every year they hire an artisan to create the physical award versus just like a metal plaque with your name carved into it, I just think that it's so special that someone gets to take away like a physical piece of art that, you know, they get to treasure. I know like other years there's been furniture, pottery, textile, like it's really cool that they maybe even expose these members of the community to different aspects of art that they wouldn't have seen, and you get to appreciate it. And it's that the fact that it's given to them, you know. And then they're supporting the arts by hiring these artists to create the awards. So that's a pretty amazing thing. Whenever I create a painting for someone, and I do a lot of commissioned work, so like their reaction to a painting is always something, I think that's the thrill of doing commission work. So I hope that they see it and it brings a smile to their face, and you know, if they hang it on their wall, that's even better. You know, that means that it's something that they cherish, right? You don't tend to hang something on your wall that you look at and dislike, right? So I hope it can add some color and also, you know, add a little bit of that nature that I love, like into their home life, you know. That I just think that's a nice reminder. For my illustration work, I always do visual research, so I spent countless hours online looking at different visuals for the trees, and then I kind of create this catalog of images. Once you put a mark on paper, it's permanent. Like you can't really cover up any mistakes. So I always like to really plan ahead of time. And so I worked on some sketches, and I even did some color sketches to send off to the awards committee to get those approved. When I start working on the final, the first thing I do is I tape down my watercolor paper, which acts as a it acts to keep the watercolor paper from kind of like folding up on itself. As it gets wet, it likes to kind of warp and get a little curved, but it also helps keep a very clean border that afterwards it's so incredibly satisfying at the very end to peel off the tape and you have a nice crisp border around your painting. I do tend to be more photorealistic. I think that's just the way I tend to just capture what I see more than what I imagine, if that makes sense. And I just feel like there's so many beautiful colors in nature that I want to just try to get as much of that onto the page as I can. Another large aspect of being Canadian, I think, or what I associate with Canadians, is this like sense of community, and also just this general like sense of kindness to each other that you don't always get in other places. And you know, that ties in especially in smaller communities where you get these like outreach programs and community centers that really try to bring people together, and awards like this that are honoring those people that just give to their communities is so special.